light brown, and dusky fur are mixed to give the California ground squirrel's upper parts a mottled appearance. A band of slightly darker fur, fleckled with light gray, extends from the head over the middle of the back. Gray fur forms a cape over the sides of the head and shoulders. This gray cape may have a protective function, breaking up the animal's body outline and making it more difficult for a predator to spot. Light buff or grayish yellow fur covers the undersides. Whitish fur rings the eyes and perhaps protects the squirrel's eyes from too intense sunlight. Black fur edges the outer rims of the ears. The tail, 5 to 7 inches long and more than half the length of the head and body, is covered with mixed yellowish gray and black hairs and is lighter on the underside. Generally, California ground squirrels measure between 16 and 19 inches total length.
Reproduction of ground squirrels. Squirrels breed once a year with an average of 7 to 8 per litter. Breeding time depends on the location squirrels are in. For example, in the south of California, breeding begins in the month of December. In Central Valley, breeding begins between February and April, and in mountain areas, it begins later in the year. When the breeding season arrives, adult squirrels are very active. The young squirrels are born inside the burrow and grow really fast. At 6 weeks old, they get out of the burrow and get familiar with its surrounding habitat. After 6 months, they are not considered independent adults.
California ground squirrels use cheek pouches while they are foraging to collect more food than would otherwise be possible in one sitting. They are also known to cache or store food. They exploit a variety of food sources, which probably contributes to their success as a species. The diet of these animals, as their genus name would suggest, is primarily seed-based. California ground squirrels consume seeds, barley, oats, and acorns. They also eat fruits like gooseberries and pears, and quail eggs. They include insects in their diets when they are available, and they have been known to eat grasshoppers, crickets, beetles, and caterpillars. They also eat roots, bulbs, and fungi, such as mushrooms. The control procedure you select depends heavily upon the unique life cycle and behavior of the ground squirrel. For example, control methods include fumigation, baiting, trapping, habitat modification, and natural control such as hawks, eagles, rattlesnakes, and coyotes. Another method that provides control is shooting, but it is very time-consuming. Shooting is recommended only when you do it safely and you are in a rural location where squirrel numbers are very low. There are no effective frightening devices or repellents that will cause ground squirrels to leave their burrows or avoid an area or crop. When using firearms to manage squirrels, don't use lead ammunition in areas within the historical California Condor Range. Check with your local game warden for more information regarding these areas. The California Fish and Game Code classifies ground squirrels as non-game mammals. An owner or tenant can control in any legal manner non-game mammals that are injuring growing crops or other property. Tree squirrels, on the other hand, are classified as game animals and have a hunting season. No license is required if it is the owner or tenant who is taking ground squirrels that are causing the damage. A trapping license from the Department of Fish and Game is required for those who are trapping squirrels for hire or profit. From central Washington through western Oregon, California, and into the northern part of Baja California, this squirrel is found in plains, small meadows, tree-covered hillsides, rocky outcrops, and granite taluses. The northern extent of its range was once bounded by the Columbia River, but the California ground squirrel has crossed the river into south-central Washington. California ground squirrels live in burrows. Hillsides or low earth banks are preferred sites because the burrows can be excavated horizontally, although many burrows are dug down vertically several feet to assure protection. Burrows, which are about 4 or 5 inches in diameter, may vary in length from 5 feet to more than 35 feet and may be used by many generations of ground squirrels. Some burrows house single squirrel occupants, while others may be colonial homes for several squirrels. Short burrows may have a single opening, but longer branched burrows often have 2 or more openings.
Mark Mason, in-house PCA for Huntington Farms. I've been an in-house PCA for about 20 years.
How prevalent have squirrels been on the farm in the past years?
So we have ground squirrels that we have in areas that we have high vegetation or large levees, but where we're up against rivers or hills, we tend to have ground squirrel problems.
What type of pest management control methods do you use?
So we'll bait for them in the off season, or we will shoot them if they show up during the season.
What are some of the difficulties that you have encountered?
For controlling the squirrels is food safety requires that we can't have bait in the bait stations during harvest. So if we get ground squirrels that show up during harvest, we cannot bait for them. We have to either take the damage or take them out by shooting them. But we cannot have bait in bait stations during harvest.
In your experience with ground squirrels, what management method has been the most effective?
Baiting prior to the crop. Once the crop shows up, then they have a food source, so we try to bait prior to the crop. Or if we can't, or due to food safety rules, we cannot bait during the crop season when harvest is here. So at that point, we have to shoot them.
Do you use any fumigant control?
No.
Do you do any monitoring for ground squirrels?
We just look for their tunnels, or we look for their mounds on the levees during the season, but it's not a set monitoring program. When we do see activity, then we take action.
From the crops that are grown in Huntington Farms, is there a specific crop ground squirrels tend to like most?
No, they like them all.
What has been the economic damage?
They can cause problems. We tend to act pretty quick when we do see them. You want a dollar number? I don't know. We spend maybe $10,000-$20,000 a year on ground squirrel control over 5,000 acres. So whatever that ends up being, that's about what we spend for control. And then that same bait would be for mice. So it's more than just ground squirrels. So it's not specific to ground squirrels. Mice and other vertebrates will take the same bait. But we do have a large monitoring program for other vertebrates like mice, but not ground squirrels.
Hi, my name is Daniel Alfaro. We're currently at Crossfield 25, and today we're going to demonstrate to you how to identify a freshly growed ground squirrel hole and set up a conibear trap that we effectively use to catch 12 ground squirrels.
Here we have an example of an active burrow. As you can see, there is accumulation of fresh soil. We have no debris blocking the entrance, and at this location we have seen a high activity of ground squirrels. At this location, we found an inactive burrow. As you can see, we have an accumulation of debris around the entrance, and there's vegetation growing along the sides.
While you're setting up the trap, you want to have precaution with your hands. You don't want to end up with broken fingers, missing fingers, and we're going to begin by compressing the spring. And as you compress the spring with one hand, with your other hand, you could hold the trap on one corner, just in case it triggers itself and you don't want to have your fingers stuck in there. So once the trap is open, make sure that you have the trigger right in the center of the trap, and the log is going to go over the trigger. So once the log is set on top of the trigger, be careful because the trap could trigger itself. The trap is ready. We're going to go ahead and install the trap and the ground squirrel hole. When it's set up, make sure that's centered in front of the hole and nothing is blocking it on its sides. Once the trap is ready, go ahead and stake the trap in case they get something overnight and you don't want a predator to take your trap, and you're going to end up with a missing squirrel and trap.